Hey, hello friends, today we are taking a look at Sandalwood Fragrances. So I will share my thoughts on some 15 of those that I own. And I have compiled this with the criteria that the Sandalwood note is at least the third prominent one in terms of the scent profile. Otherwise, it's used in thousands of fragrances as a base note. It is one of my favorite notes, probably top 3 with leather and iris. The other two I got to know much later from French perfumes. But Sandalwood I have experienced from childhood, so it has a special place for me. Also, it has not been a secret for some time that most of the fragrances nowadays, especially the designer ones, do not use natural sandalwood, and even the ones that do are Australian or New Caledonian harvest. Many fragrances and other cosmetic products, even cheap ones, were using natural sandalwood before for the smell plus its fixative properties. Back in India, it is considered a sacred royal ingredient used in religious rituals, Ayurveda for its aroma and healing properties. It was in the early 90s and late 80s that there was an acute shortage of Mysore sandalwood essential oil from India due to overharvesting, farming mismanagement, smuggling and few other reasons. Then after, it was restricted and put under strict trade legislation by the Indian government. It is exceptionally rare and rather expensive to get it nowadays. It was told that this will be the case till the harvest increases by planting more trees which take 40 years to grow and mature. We are getting to that point now, so we should have more supply and the prices should drop. Yeah, right, that's probably never going to happen. Meanwhile, Western flavoring houses have created synthetic equivalents for it like Cabanel and Sandalwood. So if you're really a fan of this note and only know it from modern Western perfumes and would like to have an unadulterated sandalwood experience, if possible, it is worth checking out some natural oils and attars from trusted sources just to get an idea of what the real stuff smells like. I have some here with me and some more in India. It is much more robust than most of what we buy from big companies nowadays. That is not to say as a full fragrance composition, but as a standalone note. It is a different experience altogether compared to when it is blended with other notes and such. But just like oud and rose, still complex enough to be a perfume by itself. Now before getting to the actual list, I would like to comment on two popular sandalwood fragrances. First is the infamous Santal 33 from Le Labo. I think it is an okay fragrance. I don't think it deserves that kind of popularity, nor the strong hate it gets. So basically I don't mind it, but would not buy a full bottle. Second is Sacred Wood from Kilian, which I liked when I sampled, but only managed to get the re-release bottle, and it was not good and I had to sell it off. With all that, now let's get into the actual list in no particular order, and I will share my top favorites at the end. First up is Blue Santal by Comme des Garçons from 2018. This is one of the 3 fragrances released as part of the Blue Invasion collection, which is focused on creating scent profiles by putting a contradictory note against the blue aquatic theme. There is also incense and cedar. This one opens spicy with some pepper and some salty, mineralic, seaweed-like vibe in the background. Very sharp in the beginning with the aquatic scent profile. And yes, it is not what is generally perceived as a blue themed scent, like Bleu de Chanel or Cool Water with dihydromercenol. More so on the aquatic side, like Oud Mineral and some Heelys. Later turns into this dry sandalwood scent. Overall, it's like you had a gin cocktail by the beach and went into a sandalwood scented spa at your beachside hotel kind of vibe. There is an intentional disjoint created by the contradicting aquatics and the warm sandalwood. So a very CDG take on the aquatic theme. Next up, let's do another fresh one. This is Sandalo from Etro. Almost every Italian house has a Sandalo in their collection. This is one of the better ones and one of the oldest from 1989, so has that classic vibe. Nowadays it may smell obvious, but still a pleasant, fresh, musky, clean, aromatic take on sandalwood. Very Italian in its styling. Has orange and lemon for freshness, then some soapy geranium, bit of rose, almost like rose water, clean musks and some faint amber with some sweetness from the vanilla, all working together to support this soft sandalwood, perfect for summer daytime wear. Others like Lorenzo Villoresi, Santa Maria Novella, Acqua di Parma all have this sandalwood cologne style fragrances that work great in the heat. Let's go to the other side of the spectrum and do some heavier takes. This is Sandalwood Royal from the Les Absolus d'Orient collection of Guerlain, created by Thierry Vasser in 2016. I have a love and hate relationship with this collection. at times can't stand the overly synthetic, abrasive compositions, but then they have perfumes like Encens Mythique and Bois Mystérieux, which are fascinating. This one, Santal Royal, I like to pull out now and then when I feel like I want something to send a message, so to speak. Basically a rose oud scent imposed on a Guerlain profile. Some white florals trying hard to soften it. A bit of fruitiness from the peach. Quite spicy and musky as well. The sandalwood is clearly perceivable for me only after a couple of hours down the line. Dries down to this leathery amber woody scent. Not the best of Guerlain, but would take this over Abominations from Montal and Massoïa. Now that Guerlain did their own Middle Eastern sandalwood, Dior, belonging to the same conglomerate, had to do their version of it. That gave us Santal Noir from the Collection Privée in 2018, created by our supreme leader François Demachy. It seems like he wanted to show that he was involved in the creation of Chanel ÉGOÏSTE with Jacques Polge, so he decided to do a take on that DNA. This is a big, rough, heavy-handed take on a rose sandalwood combo, done with the characteristics of a rose oud to appeal to the Middle East. Quite opaque, smoky, dark take on the sandalwood theme. If you're looking for finesse and tranquility with your sandalwood, this is not it. Has a butch rose working with that sandalwood, big musky ambrette, some sweetness and warmth from the vanilla, which is probably the connection to ÉGOÏSTE. Dries down to the familiar Dior Privée amber woods. Not the best of the Privée creations, but still functional as an extravagant woody scent. Speaking of the influence, you have Chanel ÉGOԻSTE by Jacques Polge from 1990, and what an iconic fragrance this is. A spicy, musky take on sandalwood, lots of coriander and cinnamon giving it that lift, rose and carnation adding colors to the woody canvas, a touch of controlled ruggedness from the tobacco, amber and leather with a load of poppy ambrette musks. It is classy but still manages to have that edginess. This is the kind of guy who smokes a cigarette first thing in the morning, dark brown hair, impeccably dressed in a suit, not afraid to confront the people he works with, leaves girls in the bed late at night, travels the world and does things on his own terms. A striking fragrance, especially considering it's from a designer signature line. Now let's do another fantastic designer take on the sandalwood theme. This is Costume National Homme Parfum from 2020, created by Dominique Ropion. This followed the original EDP and did a richer take on that theme. This also reminds me of ÉGOԻSTE to some extent, stylistically speaking, but a completely different fragrance. Has a big spicy component with lots of cardamom and cinnamon, a noticeable labdanum heavy amber, a dry, slightly smoky, smooth sandalwood in the dry down with some vetiver giving it that backbone. It is rich, stylish, masculine, mature, timeless, one of the best designer scents in recent times. Let's jump into an affordable niche brand next with Essentiel Parfum. This is by Nathalie Garcia called Orange X Santal from 2018, and the name says it all. This is a straightforward orange scent, very simple, fresh, bright, clean, slightly bitter and a pleasant citrus aromatic musk, reminding me of Terre d'Hermès Eau Très Fraîche and Bigarade Concentré. Quite easy to pull off like other scents from this house. Some basil and some cypress giving it the aromatic touches. The sandalwood in here is very light and soft. It basically smoothens out the orange and giving it that rounded quality and that creamy woodiness. More so like a chalk piece streak of sandalwood than a block. Another one I enjoy wearing during the summer. Now let's do this popular sandalwood scent from Diptyque by Daniel Molière. This is Tam Dao, the Eau de Parfum version from 2013. This draws on the memories of one of the house owners when he visited temples and forests in the south of India in Goa and Mysore. It is a straightforward scent, but the way the sandalwood in here smells is really inviting. It has that smooth, candle waxy, dandified, dusty, woody DNA of Diptyque scents. Has some cedar working with the sandalwood to accentuate the papery, wood shaving like quality. The sandalwood is soft, a bit creamy, meditative with hints of incense close to a spa vibe. Pretty fresh even though it is EDP version of the original. Can be worn anywhere, anytime. One of the more honest takes on sandalwood. Now let's go to a quirky take on the spicy vanillic sandalwood theme from an indie house released in 2020. This is Fleur Cash by Anatole Lebreton. This was supposed to capture the scent of vanilla being transported in wooden barrels. To me, it is more of a culinary spicy take on vanilla and sandalwood. It has turmeric, fenugreek and timur, some spices which we don't see often in fragrances. A bit curryish for sure. The melange of spices give it a herbal, dry, earthy quality with some toasty vibe. Lot of bittersweetness and this golden syrup outlook from the Madagascar vanilla and Peru balsam. In the dry down is where all these chaotic spices are settled down by this dry, smooth, crunchy sandalwood. An interesting scent for the holidays. Let's go to another release from 2020 by a smaller under the radar house. This is Ooh La La from Theo Cabanel, created by Patrice Ravillard. This is a nutty, powdery take on a woody scent. Lots of hazelnut and saffron. Turns powdery right from the beginning. Has this rice powder like undertone, giving the scent this roasted, warm facet. There's also iris and tonka bean, which adds to the nutty, powdery character, and some dry, ashy tobacco as well. Dries down to a musk scent basically. Overall has this old library furniture vibe. Kind of nostalgic actually. Another unknown brand that I came across in the wild called PH Fragrances. This is Vetiver Santal de Cuillère by Nisrin Grier from 2018. Though it says Cuillère, no leather in here. It uses this classic jasmine, sandalwood and musk scent profile with added lactonic notes. A typical smooth, creamy, cozy take on a woody scent. The sandalwood note in here is exactly the same as in Palo Santo from Carner Barcelona, which they claim is real Australian sandalwood, both by Givaudan Parfumeurs. Vetiver helps cut through the richness, reminding me a bit of Sycamore from Chanel. An agreeable take on sandalwood. Let's go to Serge Lutens with Santal Majuscule from 2012, made by Christopher Sheldrake. There may be some musks in here, some amber, patchouli and immortelle, but the key three notes are cacao, rose and sandalwood, and that's pretty much what you get. Has this Serge Lutens glass clanking amber vibe in there too. The sandalwood is of this dark, polished, brown kind. Beauty in simplicity personified. Maybe simple but comes across baroque. Shows the amount of control a great perfumer can have over his craft. It reminded me of this Tamil alphabet, demonstrating perfect balance and equilibrium. Speaking of great perfumers, let's go to one made by Jean-Claude Ellena. This is Santal Massoïa from Hemessence collection of Hermès. This is a polite, fresh, delicate take on sandalwood in the style of Ellena. It has the woodiness, the creaminess, the floral nuances, but all toned down to a very subtle level. Has this tropical, fruity, figgy coconut water like characteristics as well. As with Hemessence, has a second note Massoïa coupled to the Santal, which gives it a bready, pandémie like nuance. When I first tested it, I was not a fan, as I like my sandalwoods to be more prominent and rich. But after full wearings, came to appreciate the exploration of the softer facets of sandalwood. Now one of my favorite from the Hemessence collection. Next, let's go to Chanel Bois des Iles from 1926, created by Ernest Beau, now part of the Iles Exclusifs. Inspired by the 1920s Paris, jazz culture, African influence, unknown islands and Russian opera. This is a sandalwood heavy take on the Chanel No. 5 DNA. There are rumors that it was one of the trials presented to Coco Chanel. The iris, rose, jasmine facets are toned down from No. 5. The ylang and sandalwood facets are toned up with some added peach. The sandalwood is soft, floral, sweet and creamy. It is very much in that aldehydic floral style with the cold, aloof characteristics of a Chanel perfume. Has this adventurous, feral vibe to it, opposed to being full-on traditional. Has been kept quite well actually, and still one of the best in this collection. At last, we have come to a couple of my absolute favorites. First is Dries and Noten from Frederic Malle, created by Bruno Jovanovic in 2013. Done a full review. The sandalwood note in here in isolation captures everything that I like about the smell. And here they used Santalum album from Australia. Starts with this peculiar pulpy, fruity smell with some spices, saffron, nutmeg and clove. Then turns into this rich, balsamic, sweet, creamy, spellbinding sandalwood note in the heart. I think it's an amazing scent. The perfumer had to win an internal competition to pitch this scent. It captures the style of Dries. Simple personally, eclectic when it comes to work. It's sweet, comforting, but still manages to be classy, suave and charming. Not a lot of scents I would consider as having charm. Balances the Eastern influence with the contemporary French, Northern European disposition. Really a piece of life kind of scent. My favorite modern sandalwood. I wear it on my birthdays. That's how much I love this scent. And at last, let's go visit the most influential French perfume house. This is Samsara by Guerlain, created by Jean-Paul Guerlain in 1989. Inspired by the classical French perfume heart in the likes of Bois des Iles, Rose, Jasmine, Ylang, Iris, some of which are also part of the Guerlain, Jean-Paul added a large amount of Mysore sandalwood to create one of the most divine and borderline spiritual incarnation of sandalwood. The vintage version is great, but the latest version by Thierry Vasser is not too shabby either. Pays tribute to India with its naming, meaning the circle of life, and obviously with the use of sandalwood. It's audacious, sweet and enveloping from the tonka vanilla, sunny and warm from the ylang and amber, some creamy waxy jasmine. It is just a breathtakingly beautiful composition and the pinnacle of applying French perfumery to an Eastern theme. So there you have it, an overview of my sandalwood fragrances. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care and ciao.